YouTube, what's going on? It's the Drunken Kobold here, this time with a review of Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. Icewind Dale is the newest addition to the 5e module family, and like Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate before it, takes us to well-known location in D&D's well-written history. This time, home of R.A. Salvatore's second Legend of Drizzt trilogy, and the main setting of the 2000 video game of the same name. But does this Rime of the Frostmaiden live up to the reputation of renditions past, or is this a disappointing shadow of what could have been? Let's find out. Rime of the Frostmaiden is a 7-chapter adventure for characters leveled 1 through 11. Among its 320 pages is a brand new 51-creature bestiary, 3 new spells for studious wizards, and a slew of magic items that are sure to make any campaign you use them in more enjoyable. As well as a new item for the fed-up Dungeon Master, but that will remain a surprise for those of you interested. In addition, the Goliath traits from Volo's Guide to Monsters feature as a playable race among the pages of the book for the players who may be interested in the race but don't own Volos. The 7 chapters have lots of content for players to work through, and to be honest, if a party was to complete it all, as the game progressed, the actual party level versus the intended party level would be very skewed. This is reminiscent of how Dragon Heist gave Password the adventure, and the whole book wasn't intended to be completed at one campaign. However, with Rime of the Frostmaiden, we will later discuss how it might be advisable to work against the grain. In Chapter 1, you're introduced to the 10 towns. The 10 towns are, you guessed it, 10 establishments built around Lac Dinishar and its nearby waterways. As the Dungeon Master, instead of guiding players through each of the 10 towns one by one, you pick one and start your adventure there. Each town comes equipped with a detailed map of the town, a detailed description of what and who you may find among the walls of the establishments, and a starting quest in each town designed to take the players from level 1 to level 4 before venturing out into the wilderness of Icewind Dale. Speaking of wilderness of Icewind Dale, that is exactly where Chapter 2 takes you, and as much as there is to do here, this is where the module gets confusing to somebody reading it on the fly. Chapter 2 has enough content, and then some, to take players from 4th level to 7th level. The book recommends that the DM does not allow players to level beyond level 7 in the wilderness, and if they hit level 7, that they be directed to the locations described in chapters 5 through 7. Yes, you heard that right. If you allow players to progress all the way to level 7, you skip chapters 3 and 4 altogether. I highly don't recommend this, because what is the point of buying a book if you're not going to use all its content, am I right? Chapter 3, Sunblight, takes you into the fortress of Zordok the Dugar Dwarf, who has a serious grudge against the 10 towns, where you learn he has a plot to destroy them. Yep, wipe them off the map entirely. This part of the book is written for 4th or 5th level adventures, but I personally recommend level 5 so that players have time to explore the wilderness at least a little bit in Chapter 2. Chapter 4, Destruction's Light, is Zordok's plan in action. That's right, it doesn't matter at all if you defeat him or not in Chapter 3. His plan will quite literally still take flight and begin doing some significant damage and killing a lot of civilians. And there is nothing the players can do to prevent this, only possible actions to stop it before it does too much damage. This part of the adventure is seriously my favorite, and I have invested in all the miniatures needed to run it as a standalone one-shot adventure because it is that epic, and it is intended to be navigated by 6th level players. Chapter 5 is where we inevitably end up regardless of if the players leveled to level 7 in Chapter 2 or did it in Chapters 2 through 4, and the confusing part of the adventure is now over. This is where you potentially do battle with the Frostmaiden. There are a few ways to defeat her, and plenty of content between the start of this chapter and the end. However, I was left feeling like this should have been it, that this should have been the final battle of the module. Imagine battling Tiamat or Strahd, and then being told you still have 2 more chapters to go. Honestly, I would have been happy if the campaign ended here on page 213, gave us 57 pages of appendices, and called it a day. Chapter 6, Caves of Hunger. The players, now equipped with the Rime of the Frostmaiden, begin searching the caves for the lost Netherese city. This part of the adventure is aimed for level 8 or higher adventurers, but the book does say lower players can survive this section if they use adequate caution. There is a lot of encounters along the path to the end of this chapter, and a sufficient amount to possibly level players well into 9, nearly 10. But using milestone leveling, this chapter prefers if you just reward the players 1 level for completing the chapter. Chapter 7 is the actual end to the book, and takes place in the lost city of Ithrin. While Ithrin is really cool, and Chapter 7 is well written, by this point of the book it feels really out of place with the rest of the adventure, and once again the book steps on the player's sense of urgency by bringing back a defeated foe if they were not able to outright be killed before. What is my opinion? Icewind Dale is a great adventure for an experienced dungeon master to use as part of their repertoire, but I would not recommend it for the inexperienced. The confusing level progression and the fact that many of the encounters in this book need tweaks to be playable make this a really challenging adventure for the new DM, and even in the hands of a veteran dungeon master, many of the early quests are deadly encounters to a party of the level recommended for that chapter, and may result in total party kills if the player and DMs are not careful. Thematically, this book gets a solid 8 out of 10. The first 5 chapters are well written from a narrative standpoint, and the appendices give a lot of great well-themed items and monsters to bring it home with. However, the last 2 chapters really stand out and feel like they don't belong as cool as they are themselves. Mechanically, I can only give this book a 6 out of 10. The awkward level progression system, the fact entire chapters can be skipped, and the fact that the book takes away any sense of urgency from the players have twice is a huge letdown. Combine that with the fact that the encounters are not balanced at all, and this book feels like it left much room for improvement. Well, that's my review for Rime of the Frostmaiden. Do you agree with me? Do you feel that there was something I missed? How would you improve the module for your players? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, cheers, and may the rolls be with you.